This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with some important updates about YouTube's new terms of service. It appears they have some new tricks up their sleeve when it comes to protecting the children. Really, this seems like it's a ruse to take down channels like mine and channels such as the channel of our guest who's joining us today, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media. Josh, thanks for joining us. This is a very important update to these terms of services that are going to be updated on December 10th. Now today, I was just uploading today's video and I got this message: important, all creators are obligated to take action to comply with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act and/or/other laws. Review your channel and video settings. You are legally required to comply with the U.S. Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA, and/or other laws. You are required to tell us if your videos are made for kids. Use the new YouTube studio. So, Josh, first of all, it seems scary to me to hear something like this in the lead up to the December 10th move. What do you make of this? Because I mean, I've heard them say, think of the children before, when it turns out that it was a big ruse to clamp down on our rights. How do you see this new move from YouTube moving forward, and what do you make of the new rule?
Well, first of all, I think it's really rich hearing from YouTube as if they are there to protect children. YouTube, the same entity, which, by the way, for those that forget, took down Dan's video regarding how terrible pedophilia is. And you'd think that wouldn't be very controversial, would you? But it apparently is for YouTube. I think basically this is a control issue. It has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with children. It has to do with control. I mean, YouTube is losing billions of dollars, billions with a B, by taking down the channels that they're going to be taking down after December 10th. This has nothing to do with money. It's all about control, because look, people moved from the mainstream media to YouTube. And what happened after that? Well, they realized that, well, the Ron Paul revolution, all these things started coming out, all these conspiracy theories became more mainstream and all that kind of stuff, and it scared the establishment. And guess who owns YouTube? Google. Google is creating their own form of governance. I think they're actually trying to create their own government at the end of the day, their own sovereign entity, their own sovereign government. And they are coming in as like a censorship board, like we saw out of Stalin or Nazi Germany, where only what they think complies with their beliefs can exist in this information war. And it is an information war. We are up against a brick wall like never before. The market always prevails in this case. It always brings forward great opportunities when we are shoved around and oppressed in this way. But with that said, for the time being, it's really bad, because they are coming in saying that they're here to protect children. And it's interesting because YouTube has been controversial, to say the least, over the years for allowing really gross, creepy children's content, where these kids that have like millions upon millions of subscribers are all old men watching them walk around in bikinis. Yet you call out Jeffrey Epstein for going after children and your videos get shadow banned, they get taken down. You talk about this kind of stuff. You talk about the push by the mainstream for children to embrace, being drag queens and even, actually physically altering their bodies at the request of their parents. And YouTube takes it down as some kind of hate speech. This has nothing to do with children. This is about control. And I'm concerned, like many of us, there's lots of solutions. But with that said, I'm very concerned, because I think we're going to see probably hundreds of thousands of channels taken down or demonetized. And it really puts us all in a rough spot.
And it puts the children in a rough spot, because truly, I mean, they are the future. The state, the powers that ought not to be know this, and they want to not only shut down our channels, Josh, but they want to stop our information from being able to be seen by the next generation, the kids who are going to become tomorrow's police and lawyers and doctors and judges. So how do we deal with this moving forward when it comes to what they get access to? Because I'm going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to make a decision, it seems, moving forward, that if we make a video, let's say about the attacks of September 11th, are we going to have to decide, is that not for children? Well, I think children should learn about what I have to say about that, especially if they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. But now I have to decide if this is going to be something that's meant for children or not. What do you think this is going to do to the education, to the real, kids' real ability to learn from alternative sources other than just the mainstream media propaganda machine.
It's creating an army of indoctrinated robots, but I think there will be resistance to this. Both of us, Dan, have seen our videos that we've worked hard on get deleted by YouTube regarding 9/11. We've seen this happen to each other over the last few months, and they claim that it's inciting violence to talk about a historical event. They've deleted my documentaries on JFK because they've considered it to be some form of hate speech. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's a modern day book burning, and I'm very concerned about what the future brings with this kind of stuff, especially with the new YouTube guidelines saying things like YouTube may terminate your access or your Google account's access to all or part of the service if YouTube believes in its sole discretion that provision of the service to you is no longer commercially viable. What does that even mean, Dan? That makes no sense. They try to make it as vague as possible so that they can have more leeway going forward and get avoid more lawsuits like the type that Steven Crowder has brought forward multiple times from happening. They know that if they make it vague, then they can claim whatever they want when it comes down to going into court with them when there's inevitably a class action lawsuit, because they are going to ruin thousands of lives when they take down these channels. A lot of people depend on YouTube. You and I have been posting videos on YouTube for years, yourself for over a decade, and it's very important that we do this. We didn't do it for money. We did it to get information to the public. If we can't even, we don't make money anymore, but if we can't even get information to the public, then it makes our job kind of pointless because we wouldn't be able to actually do anything. We're basically silent, and it's creating a form of self-censorship. It's causing people like us to really think over whether we should release a video or not, and morally and consistently we have to anyway. But that's going to be the demise of us. With what's happening with the children's thing, I actually think that they're almost pushing us into a situation where maybe if you swear on video, then you can't be considered children's content, but you'll definitely be demonetized. But demonetization is better than getting deleted. So I think it's putting a lot of people in this weird corner like we've never seen before. But with that said, I am optimistic overall long-term, not at all short-term, but long-term regarding things like float.app or BitChute. I mean, we have options, and it just takes the viewers watching this to actually take just 2 seconds to go over to these platforms, sign up. It takes moments. Float, flote.app. It takes like no time to sign up for it. There's almost no privacy policy, and there's no algorithm, so it doesn't tell you what you can or cannot see or say. So that's going to be good for gamers. That's going to be good for makeup artists. That's going to be good for toy reviews, and that's going to be good for those of us spreading information like we have for so many years, and we'll be a lot less fearless about it when it comes down to it. But the monetization is coming on Float, so I think that'll solve a lot of these issues. Same with BitChute.
Yeah, well said, Josh. I wanted to, get your, views on solutions moving forward, but you nailed it right there. I mean, we got to look to these alternative platforms that are not censoring free speech and that who are, actually looking out for the well-being of not only children, but all of the users on the platform. Sites like Float, FLOTE app, I believe it is, right? Yep, right. Float.app. These are the type of people who are responding to these circumstances. It's a beautiful thing, really, seeing the free market respond to YouTube censorship, but that requires our engagement, our involvement. It requires us stepping away from YouTube. Yes, you're watching this on YouTube. Yes, we're still here on YouTube. But that's because we need to reach the masses to tell you that there are other options, people. Float is a good one. BitChute is a good one. There's a number of them. You can find them in the description of both our videos here at World Alternative Media and Press for Truth. Is where you can find these alternatives. But Josh, I think decentralization is the key moving forward here. So, any final thoughts here to wrap it up on what appears to be a kind of tricky move from YouTube to potentially, under the guise of protecting the kids, shut us down? What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think it's important to note that it's something that a lot of us in independent media have been anticipating for quite a long time. I mean, I've had many conversations with you and many people in independent media over the past couple of years about, wouldn't it be best if we just kind of announced that we are pulling out of YouTube and going to these platforms only before they take us down, because it's a tricky situation, Dan. Either YouTube deletes us first and we can't tell everyone where to go, or we make a bold move and walk away from YouTube. And it's a scary thing to do because, I mean, it is a modern day book burning. We have all of this information. Both of us have about 1,500 videos on YouTube, and all of that will just it'll be gone. And we've tried to back it up. I know I've backed up all my stuff on IPFS and on backup drives and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, all the conversations that were had, all the comments, all the people conversing in the comments of videos that are important to us, believe it or not, I read a lot of the comments. And it's one of the best parts, other than all the negative stuff, it's great to see people having those conversations in the comments. And also for the future of children, I mean, when I think of what's best for children, I think education, understanding these issues, being able to prepare themselves for the inevitable bad things, bad people exist and evil people exist, and people need to know about these things. Children need to know about these things, and children need to grow up understanding how to defend themselves against these things, and how to open their mind to new ideas, and how to be the greatest person that they are capable of being. If you give children the opportunity to grow in their mind, without restriction, you create the next generation of, poets and musicians and scientists and, philosophers and these people that invent new things. I mean, that's so important, and it's so heavily restricted when information is restricted. So that's an insult to the future of children, and it puts them in a very narrow path that is going to be really bad for them long term. But again, Float.app, BitChute, PocketNet, there's so many options out there, and there's no excuse at this point, when everyone knows YouTube is against them, to not go to these other platforms. And I think it's really good as well to see that YouTube is doing all this stuff to everyone at this point. And I think we're seeing the resistance. They're going to be attacking PewDiePie and all that kind of stuff. It's a perfect time when you have things like Float.app, which looks to replace Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one. And it lets you do live streams and super chats and that kind of stuff. For them to unroll monetization in December or January, I think that is going to be incredibly important for being able to say, oh, you are demonetized or your channel's been deleted? Well, come right over here. We've got you covered. And I think that's going to be important. So I think we're going to see an exodus, and perfect timing. As per usual, the market reacts and people react. And I think good will triumph over evil overall.
Yeah, agreed. And I agree. It is great timing. I mean, right now we're seeing the trending page on YouTube resembles the worst of television programming. It's just all MSM, BS, and propaganda. Right. But you're certainly not going to be getting that from Float and BitChute and PocketNet and Minds and others. So indeed, please check the links in the description. Join me and Josh on all these other platforms. Subscribe to us there. Start your own channels there. Let's as a free market, decide to, step away from YouTube and start engaging with these alternative platforms that support free speech truly. So once again, Josh, thanks so much for joining us here today. I look forward to seeing some of the comments on this video over on Float.
Thanks, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.